Good evening, everybody. So I've managed to invite Lord Krishna into my own videos because he is the fountain of inspiration for everything that I'm telling you. And I'm hoping he appreciates that. So, I have found that a divine relationship, a relationship with divinity is something that seems to be only alive in Indian culture right now. We do not see this kind of thing happening in the West. We may see people going to Buddhist monasteries and in Thailand and places like that, and people seeking peace and people seeking a sort of inner spiritual quotient, but actually bringing a deity into your life for a day-to-day interaction and for day-to-day rituals and day-to-day experiences and conversations is very, very unique to India. So I always thank that I'm part of the mother civilization that has brought us so many wonderful, wonderful abilities. And one is the ability to just simply believe, to be optimistic, positive, and to believe. So now behind me, you see the baby Krishna. Now I've always wanted a house full of babies, but because I was a working woman and I had quite a few of other things going on, I had lots of travel, I was living out of a suitcase. I didn't find stability among the men that I was meeting. So this business of being around babies is always wishful thinking. So I created a Balakrishna painting, which I'll show you subsequently. And this is an image that I love of Lord Krishna, which I keep near me. Now, Krishna represents purity and he likes purity. He is not somebody who's impressed by scholarship. He's not an entity who will come to your side if you don't have purity. So if you're political, if you're constantly turning things around and flipping things and manipulating minds, beware, because that may not be the frequency at which Lord Krishna will come into your life. Now during the pandemic, of course, most of us are not vibrating at the highest possible frequency. So I urge you to revisit Krishna stories. You'll find lots and lots of little excerpts of programs on Lord Shri Krishna where he is giving you beautiful words of wisdom. And even if you just manage to see one or two on WhatsApp every day, trust me, it will pull up your spirits. So the aspect of Krishna that I'm seeking to explore in this video today is that of a Sakhya, a friend. So you remember we spoke about the kind of relationships that he empowered you to choose. What were the relationships that made you happy with Krishna? So certain people would have liked to be a friend, so that would be the Sakhya Rasa. Others would want to see him as their child, so then it would be the Sanatana Rasa. Some would want him to be a husband. And that is the favorite. For the gopis, that was the favorite rasa. I mean, they all imagined that he is their soulmate. Even if they had husbands, they had children, to them Krishna was the soulmate. And the soulmate who was able to gratify everyone. Because during the Ras Leela, don't forget that he was one man who could multiply himself and be around for each and every gopi who loved him. And if you go to the ISKCON center and you put this question to the Pandits there, that Krishna was supposedly sacred, he was Bhagavat, he had all the 6 sacred qualities of divinity, then what was he doing with 1,000 wives and so many gopis? The answer, according to them, is that there were so many Rishi Munis who adored Krishna and who wanted to be close to him, that he promised them that in this one incarnation you will be my closest companion as a gopi. So the gopis were also highly spiritual souls incarnated to be around Shri Krishna. So I'm reading to you a very exciting excerpt which I came across today of a devotee asking Parma Devi, who's the founder and director at the Jagannatha Vallabha Vedic Research Center. And the lady asks, the devotee asks, can I accept Krishna as a husband? And the answer she gives is, of course you can. So this Swakya Madhurya Rasa is one of the 5 principal rasas explained in the science of Bhakti, the way to love the Lord. Bhakti is a tradition where your entire religion is based on your love of the Lord. It's not based on any pundits or priests telling you what to do or scholars telling you how to go about loving God. And as stated by the gopis of Vrindavana in the Bhagavata Purana, Krishna is already the husband or the pati of all living beings, of all creation in the universe. And he always lives in their hearts. You do not even need to formally accept any guru or acharya or any specific sadhana. The more sincere and pure you are, the more Krishna will reciprocate and operate and function in your heart. And through him you will hear beautiful messages, timely messages. Now what more do we seek? We live in the age of information, but information doesn't speak to the soul. Information really speaks to the mind. And don't you all feel that we live too much in the mind? Especially most of us who have been building businesses and just trying to stay on top of our game. We're just inundated with information. But information is not the rasa that makes life juicy and beautiful. The rasa that makes life juicy and beautiful is the love of people around you. Could be the love of your pets, could be the love of someone's baby, and of course the supreme love of the Supreme Lord can bring a lot of rasa into your life. So it says, of course, a loving wife will strengthen the relationship by learning to know her husband. So should you also make an effort to study the Shastra and the literary production of great devotees, including the saint Mirabai and Jayadeva. Now, if you read the stories of Mirabai, she was a rebel princess who said she was married to the Lord Krishna. She fell in love with the idea of Krishna when she was a young girl watching her mom pray to Lord Krishna. But little did her mother gave her a little statue of Krishna, and she said, yes, keep him as your best friend, keep him as your soulmate. And it became such a serious edict for her that she devoted most of her life to composing music, songs, bhajans for Krishna. She married a king. The king sometimes frequently wondered who is she having these private midnight rendezvous with, and he'd go crash into her room and he'd see her immersed in worship of Krishna. And of course around him in the court, many people tried to poison her, many people tried to destroy Meera. The husband saved her time and time again from people coming in with swords to behead her, because he had learned to appreciate her genuine love of Krishna. But when he passed away, there was no one to protect Meera. So she knew that if I have to continue my practice, my spiritual practice, I have to walk out of my kingdom. And she wanted to live in Dwarka, in Vrindavan. And so on her way, many things happened that could have endangered her life. Things were planted her way. There were beds with thorns that were given to her, but those thorns would turn into flowers. There were bowls of poison that the court was sending out for her, trying to finish her off. Because for them, it was the pride of the Rajput kingdom. How can a princess leave and walk barefoot like a mendicant, wearing a simple sari and singing songs of the Lord? So her poems and her songs are all divinely rooted in her heart. And the other poet, Jayadeva, has written some of the most spectacularly sensual poetry about Radha and Krishna's dalliances in the forest. And I've been fortunate enough to hear one Professor Goswami showcasing miniature paintings that matched Jayadeva's poetry, that were leveraging the images in Jayadeva's poetry. And you would be surprised to know how rich in symbolism they were. It was like we go to Bollywood to escape a mundane reality. We only need to go into Krishna's world and you see a whole different reality, which apparently exists all through creation. They live in a realm called Vaikunta, Radha and Krishna, permanently in Vaikunta. And that is his home. And those of us who manage to earn karma brownie points in our lifetimes worshipping Lord Krishna may one day end up in Vaikunta. That would be the ideal place to be in, far more higher vibrational frequency. So what the scholar recommends is find out about marriage and Vedic rituals and engage in the personal service of your Krishna Murti. So you can cook for him, offer him anything you have cooked and then eat it as prasad. You can bathe the Murti, you can dress the Murti, you can talk and sing to your Murti. You can keep him next to your bed and wake up first thing in the morning and sing to him and focus your attention seriously on Krishna. And the miracles that unfold are beyond conception. And I've seen this with my own eyes because one of my friends happens to be very devoted to Krishna. She invited me to Vrindavan saying that that was also his will. I stayed in her house. This was exactly how she was practicing devotion. 4 in the morning, she would put on bhajans addressed to Krishna. She would put him to sleep at night in his little jhula because she was carrying the Bala Krishna. She would carry him in the car when we went for darshan to any of the temples. And at one point, her driver told me the story that she was trying to go to Govardhan for one particularly sacred Krishna time. I think the month of Sawan, around some sacred time of Krishna Janmashtami. She wanted to meditate overnight under the Govardhan mountain. And the car was showing zero fuel, zero petrol. But there was just so much fullness in her heart that the driver said I was able to drive all the way to Govardhan with no problems. She was in a trance for 3 days. I could not bring her back. Then on the 4th day, she came out of her trance and I was able to bring her back. Again, without refueling the car. So there are many, many miracles. I see her breaking into a trance in Vrindavan, like we'd walk into the Anukut temple. She'd just start singing bhajans with her eyes half shut and start dancing. And the priests and the pandits there took it as very normal. And in fact, we had a very funny moment. As we know, pandits and mediators are all in this also because they make a living out of temples, right? So the first temple where we went, she was making an offering. We were both making an offering of some money. And the Pandit said, you have to put a minimum of 3,000 rupees on the hundi. And she said, but Krishna himself is telling me, no, do not put more than 1,300 rupees. And it was so momentous because he knew that she was speaking the truth. And imagine to witness that kind of a bond with Sri Krishna was such a total blessing for me also, to believe that you can have that bond where you can hear him speaking to you all the time. So I'm not quite as evolved. I hope to get there. But I also hope at the same time that these videos and these messages are assuring you that no matter how grave the pandemic has been, that the world of Krishna is just under your skin. And all you have to do is pray to him in the morning, pray to him at night. You can pick up a japmala and do the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. There are n number of mantras on YouTube. You can tune into that and chant for a bit every day. And invite Krishna to make your world more colorful, more blessed, more beautiful, more abundant. Trust me, you tune into the Krishna vibe and the Krishna vibe will embrace you. Just like you see the Nidhivan trees in Vrindavan embracing each other. And rumor has it they become the gopis at night. Each gopi intertwined with her lord. Isn't that a beautiful idea? So when you go to Nidhivan, the trees are actually lifeless. If you cut into the tree, there is no water going up from the roots because the roots have died a long time ago. And yet they are flowering and beautiful, and they have leaves and very lush looking trees. So you must visit Vrindavan when times are better. Stay in touch with your nearest ISKCON center, and all the best, and bringing you much love and blessings from a Krishna Bhakt, a wannabe. You can call me the wannabe Krishna Bhakt. Lots and lots of love and blessings from Sri Krishna.